is here as well. All right, Steve, Chris, if you want to take the floor.
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Chris. I'm the founder of SuredBits, and we're here today to review. I'd say part one of review of discrete log contract applications. So I say that because I think we'll likely be on calls in the future as well, talking about a discrete log contract wallet that we're working on. But that's still in progress on the engineering side of things, and we're trying to get to the point where it's worth your guys' time to take a look at that. Recently, we did a rewrite of Kyrstal Bull, which is the discrete log contract Oracle application. And we wanted to get that in front of you guys. We launched it on the Umbrel app platform last week, and things have been going good. So here is, I guess, Umbrel. Is my screen showing up okay for everybody? Could you just give me a affirmative in the yes, if so?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so let's just open up Kyrstal Bull here, and here's kind of the splash screen that you get hit with. So the very first thing you would have to do if you opened up Kyrstal Bull for the first time is you would need to set this Oracle name here at the top, and this is meant to be a little text box, and you put the name of the Oracle that shows up on the Oracle Explorer. So when Steven did this earlier, I think he called his Oracle SBD design, and he probably had to go through this same flow up here of setting this Oracle name. And Steven, did you think that was an acceptable kind of setup process? I guess I should have probably launched with an empty one just to show everybody else what that looks like. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I do have some kind of thoughts about the onboarding users to this and all of that. And I could talk a lot about that, but it might be better if I let you go through your presentation first. I think it's really just a matter of what type of user
Okay.
you think is going to be using this thing, and kind of how much knowledge they're coming into this process already having. So I'm happy to speak about that, but it might be more productive if I let you continue on for a while.
Okay, so the very first thing you would do is set your Oracle name that corresponds to the publicly shared Oracle name, so that you can have some long-standing identity with your Oracle. With discrete log contracts, it's a very trusted system. I call it trust transparent. You are counting on this Oracle to say how many people were in the Bitcoin design meeting, for instance, and truthfully attest to what that number is. As a byproduct of that, in our view, part of the tools and services we can add in the future is reputation tools to make sure that we keep track of oracles over the long term, to make sure that they are attesting to outcomes and attesting to them truthfully. So the Oracle name is really a human readable form of identity here, and the computer readable form, of course, is the public key associated with your Oracle that does the signing. So that's kind of the initial setup process, I guess, that's relevant, and we can just dive into creating an announcement now. So what an Oracle announcement is it's the information you need upfront to build a DLC off of. So it's about whatever relevant event that's going on in the world that you care about, and you need an Oracle to be able to do bets off of this. So I didn't really come up with a great example for this call. We'll make a second one of this. I was tweeting at AJ Towns, who's he's a Bitcoin developer, and he's been tweeting about DLCs lately. He's a brilliant guy, and I'm trying to goad him into contributing to the DLC spec because he's such a brilliant mind in the space. So I'll create a second announcement that replicates this one down here on the table. So will AJ contribute to the DLC spec by the end of 2022? So not 2021, but 2022. So This is a little bit further in the future. The next thing you need to do is specify a maturation time for your oracle. So what this just means is, when can I expect the oracle to sign this event? Like, how far in the future is this going to be? And in the case of this example we're doing, I say it in the title, right? It's by the end of 2022. So the end of 2022 is December 31st, 2022. And then the final thing for creating your oracle in an enumerated case anyway is the possible outcomes here. So AJ, he can contribute to the spec, he can not contribute to the spec. And I usually put in a kind of a cop-out clause here that says other, of like accounting for weird scenarios. In this example, other doesn't really make as much sense, but in the case of like sporting events or elections, the real world can get messy, and it's good to have clauses to represent those possible cases. So let's click the create button here. So we see, now we have two of these AJ Towns things. Will you contribute by the end of 2021, and will you contribute by the end of 2022? So those are the announcements that you have in your oracle. You can do a second thing here, which is broadcasting the announcement to the Oracle Explorer. This is intended to be a way for people to share their Oracle announcements. You don't have to use the Oracle Explorer, but people like web interfaces these days and need the ability to find, find relevant information about what they want to bet on. So we can see that this one popped up here too after we clicked that little chain icon, or link icon, I should say, and that's like how it actually gets published to the Oracle Explorer. So I just want to check in on the call here. Should I keep going all the way through, or should I open up for questions? What's the norm, I guess?
I'm up to continuing.
Yeah, I think you're good to keep going. And
okay.
Then, we can have discussion at the end. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's just fast forward and assume that we're sitting here December 31st, 2022, and we're looking to see, okay, did AJ, we go through the git commit history, and did AJ, actually do anything on the DLC spec, or did he not? To actually provide signatures or attestments to the question that you asked in the announcement, you come over here, you click on the announcement in the table view, and then when you click this outcome area, this is where you'd actually type in the answer to the question that was proposed earlier. And you can see, hopefully the color is not too bad here. Maybe I'll turn off, this might be better if I turn this off. If you can see here, there's like grayed out versions of the possible answers. There's a yes, there's a no, there's an other, and you need to type in one of those outcomes. So we could maybe say other, and then you click the sign button here. I am not, yeah, so it looks like this is published to the test explorer. So since this is test, I will actually attest to this at the moment. So this is a big no-no in like real DLC world, but since this is just test, and that's fine, we can actually attest to the outcome before this maturation date. So for the purposes of this example, we'll break this rule, and we'll say AJ did contribute. So you can see the outcome sign button pops up here. There's now something new in the table view down here at the bottom. There's the outcome column here. And then you also see this little broadcast announcement button that allows you to publish the attestations or signatures for this announcement to the Oracle Explorer. If we come back over here real quick, let's get the right one. You can see that these attestations are empty right now, so nobody would be able to settle the DLCs in their wallet. So you need to either announce them here, or share them over Slack or wherever you're talking to your people that are doing your DLCs. So let's click on the button. Let's just double check they show up now on the Oracle Explorer, and you've successfully attested to an enumerated DLC announcement or Oracle announcement for a DLC. So people could actually take these signatures, plug them into their wallet, and settle their Bitcoin denominated bet. So there's part 2 to this. There is another type of announcement. So we just did enumerated announcements on the top here, which is simple, like yes, no questions, or it's very easy to, say Joe Biden won the election or Donald Trump won the election. Team X won the sporting event or Team Y won the sporting event. If you're more interested in like hardcore financial applications, though, that's not going to do it. You need the ability to sign number representations of things. And, the classic example to this is like, what is the Bitcoin price in the future? Like people are very interested in Bitcoin and price in the Bitcoin industry. So if you wanted to create a numeric announcement, you can switch over to this tab here. You also need to, create a name. So let's do 2021 1018 Coinbase BTC USD price. Actually, let's adjust this a little bit. We'll put a timestamp on it because the market's constantly trading. So Coinbase, the exchange, the trading pair, and we're going to test to the price. So we go back, we do the maturation time again. Click on, Tuesday, 1019 would be the maturation time. So this is when things start getting different with the numeric outcomes. Instead of just having this simple list of values we provide, you actually need to provide a range of numbers that you expect this price to be in. So the price cannot be negative in Bitcoin USD world, or at least I guess oil was negative for a while last year, but since this is a spot market, negative prices should be impossible. And then we have to also specify a max value. So we have to have a range of events that we're expecting. So since this is, going out tomorrow, I'd say, so backing up here just a little bit, you need to make sure that the range is big enough to accurately sign the value that happened in the real world. And so to give an example of this, we're going through very volatile times in Bitcoin right now. The ETF just got approved, Bitcoin number go up. Let's just say, I put a max value of 60,000 United States dollars. Well, that means I can't accurately sign what the price actually is, possibly, because the price might be $65,000 tomorrow or $70,000. You need to make sure that this range is a little conservative so that you can accurately sign the correct price. So let's go, like $131,000 is the max value that we can sign for tomorrow. So our range is from $0 to $131,000. The unit is BTC USD. The precision is 0. And let's create this numeric announcement. So this shows up down here as well. As you can see, you can do the same broadcast flow. I'm going to skip broadcasting this for now and come back over here to the announcement detail tab. And you notice when clicking this outcome box now, we still have the valid range of values we can sign between. It's 0 and 131,000. And we could enter in one of those numbers and sign that outcome just like we did with the other the other announcement here, and then eventually publish those exact same attestations to the Oracle Explorer. So those are the two kind of core functionalities of Kyrstal Bull, and I think that's pretty much it. Ivan, am I missing anything, or should I demo anything else?
I think you got it. It's pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah, so I guess I'll open it up to questions if there are any, I guess.
Cool, thanks, Chris. You can stop sharing if you want as well, because it's getting a bit of a double screen and the thing. Yeah, nice one. All right, cool. Thank you for that. Any opening questions?
Hey, Chris, this is Steven. I was just going to say, I feel like I was fairly familiar with the DLC concept when I was watching your presentation there, and kind of fiddling with it on my own node. But it might be helpful for some people if you maybe just like went through like a kind of an overview of like, why someone like in the future, like, you know, let's say DLC usage becomes very widespread, like how do you see people using Oracle software, and how would people interact with the software on the other end of that? Like what would be some like real world use cases for this kind of technology?
Do you want me to answer now or just in the future? Like lead.
Like what can we do today, and like what could we do, you know, 5 to 10 years from now?
Okay. Well, I guess for this, you know, the purpose of oracles is to, well, okay, so backing up probably 10 steps here. You know, people want to bet on things that are going on in the real world, right? So how do we do that and not on Ethereum? It seems like every other blockchain these days has some sort of capability to port information about, you know, who won the United States election, who won the World Series, or who, you know, embarrassing myself with European football, like who won the World Cup or something like that. You know, people like to bet, and you know, this is the solution to that in the Bitcoin ecosystem, is allowing people to do bets on things. You know, you can have this range from simple prop bets to, you know, complicated financial hedging using instruments built directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you get this like financial application point of view as well. We've seen, you know, DeFi blow up on pretty much every other chain but Bitcoin. And, you know, we need some sort of answer to that in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And this, you know, discrete log contracts in general tackle the settlement and clearing problem of DeFi on Bitcoin. They don't necessarily address some other aspects of it, but it is definitely a building block for doing all sorts of censorship-resistant financial bets directly on the Bitcoin blockchain.
So Krystal here. To follow up on that, that's exactly what I was trying to think through this whole time too. Like, what can you do with it? And I had two questions there. So you're saying it's a bet, right? But there's no element of, from what you've shown right now, there's no element of me saying I'm attaching this much money to this announcement, right? It's not like it gets signed and then 0 Bitcoin or whatever I said would go with a certain outcome is then gets transferred to someone else. Is that a separate thing, or is there some way to tie all that together?
Yeah,
or is it purely, is there no transaction? It's purely about attestation of an outcome.
You are 100% right, and you know, I'll give you guys. Oh, okay, so first off, you're 100% right. This is one small piece of the entire DLC ecosystem. Discrete log contracts revolve around trusting in Oracle, which is why I spend so much time talking about them. It is a trust transparent system. And if we want discrete log contracts to succeed in the Bitcoin ecosystem, we need to build up a healthy ecosystem of oracles attesting to things that people are interested in betting on. So now to answer your second question about, like, I don't see Bitcoin transactions, I don't see, you know, addresses, etc. Like, that is 100% spot on. And it's just where we're at in the development cycle right now for DLCs. We feel confident in our Oracle software right now to start, you know, bringing this to you guys and asking for candid feedback on this stuff. Our wallet software is much more, you know, work in progress, I would say. We do have we're releasing a wallet application later today, actually, and I have demo videos recorded for it. I was going to show you guys, let me see if I can pull up this video real quick, and I'll dump the video in the chat. But I think, you know, where me and Ivan are at on the wallet software is, like, we kind of understand that there is work to be done, and we didn't think it would be a productive use of your guys' time to spend a bunch of time, you know, kind of critiquing something that we know is problematic. I just dumped the link to the full demo of entering into a DLC in the Jitsi chat here. Take a look at the video and, you know, feel free to give us feedback on this as well. But just understand that we will be, you know, doing a ground up rewrite on the front end, basically, with what you see in that video. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. Thanks for being so transparent. Like I feel like, I read through this. I also have the Umbrel and I tried things out, and I feel like there's so much stuff there. And I'm just trying to really, before saying giving any feedback, just trying to understand what this can be. And I was just thinking, for example, it doesn't have in the future. It doesn't have to be betting. There could be all kinds of financial situations where money is locked for a certain period of time until something happens in the real world. It could be a down payment on a house, or some other financial transactions between businesses or other people where the money gets locked up. There's kind of proof the money's there, and then somebody has to sign something or hand over something. Then that gets attested to by some trustworthy entity, a lawyer or somebody else, and then kind of the money gets released into the counterparty. Or so I'm just trying to think about what this can be in the future, and I'm pretty excited about that. But so it's great to have you present this and be able to ask questions. And I might be totally wrong here too, but I'm just trying to think through it, get a hold of it.
And then also, like, maybe I didn't do such a good job of expressing at the beginning of the call, but it's like I'm planning on coming back and talking about the wallet side of things after we get a little bit more stability underneath of us with just kind of beginning the rewrite process. But I do plan on coming back and talking specifically about that. So if you want to do homework in advance for when that time comes, probably like a month from now, fingers crossed. I'm an optimist when it comes to deadlines, but well, I'll be back more than likely.
Yeah, I think it's fair to set this up as this is a piece of software that is the basis for any individual being a source of truth about anything they care to be a source of truth about. So I can understand why there's a lot that's hard to see as far as where this goes or maybe how this is used. This is definitely a Lego block that's at the base of DLCs.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed it, but is it possible to use like data sources from like APIs and stuff for this?
Absolutely. So let me link to you. So maybe you've heard of Atomic Finance. They're a Canadian Bitcoin company that's building on discrete log contracts. And part of what they need for their options or their yield product is the Deribit market price signed every day. And this is where they go to hedge risk essentially for the products that they offer. I linked an announcement here in the Jitsi chat that is published on the Oracle Explorer that they actually use. And what we do on the back end there is subscribe to the Deribit APIs. We ingest the price that they are saying that settled their options market today. We sign that price and broadcast it on the Oracle Explorer, and then they go and take that and settle DLCs for their users. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Sure. I guess. Sorry, go
ahead, Chance.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking is like, I'm setting up an Oracle. Whether it's for a bet, for the price, I'm saying that this is going to be like like where are we getting the price from? Let's get the price from these three exchanges, Atomic Finance being one of them, and like a few others, and pointing to the API and like getting the specific value in the object that gets returned, and then that's kind of like a part of the setup of the DLC, I guess, the Oracle.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And to just, I feel like maybe this is something you were kind of hinting at, so I wanted to bring it up. And this is an open question that I don't have the answers to. But one flow, I guess I think about a lot is, we've talked about multi-Oracle DLCs before. That means you can kind of combine two oracles and check their answers against each other. And if one of the answers is, totally out of left field or whatever, you discard it. I'm not sure how to best set that up on say our Oracle Explorer site to allow users to kind of add together oracles, if that makes sense, or combine oracles to make these multi-oracle DLCs. And I guess we haven't even talked about it a lot internally, but it is like, I think maybe an interesting question for especially this community of how to best expose that to users in an intuitive way that avoids all this kind of technical complexity.
JB, let me address your question. So there's no API calls here or anything. This would be whoever you wanted to use in terms of those prices. You would find them and their oracle and what they are publishing in terms of those prices and use them directly. There's no call out for price. They will attest to the price for you, and then you and your counterparties can build on top of that. And what Chris is talking about is once there's a market of those prices, if Kraken was doing it and Bitfinex and whoever, then is it possible and is it feasible for us to wrap those together, and how do we present that to users?
I guess based on what Chris said, I would assume that and like how you compose oracles is basically like saying that like this oracle is this other one's data source or something, but like dependent on like that outcome, this oracle has some logic or something. But okay, yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around it as well. Thanks for the response.
I was going to make one comment with regards to what you mentioned earlier, Chris, about technical jargon kind of surfacing in the UI. I guess some of that can only be answered by like the adage of kind of design research question of like, who are your users? Because, you kind of spoke about the spectrum of people that could use this, large kind of financial institutions or just, like the average user. And so if it leans toward the kind of former, then perhaps like technical jargon is okay, because we've got stuff like different representations of data, hex format, JSONs, public keys, attestations, sign, like all of this kind of stuff is very technical. But maybe that's okay if the people setting up these bets are technically inclined, or if this is something that is going to be in some fun consumer application whereby people might want to set up some fun bets and then have something triggered once the bet is settled and stuff, then that looks completely different. So I think having some thought into who predominantly you'd like to use this could be quite helpful in answering some of those questions as well.
I take your point on that, and I think there's probably a lot to do with basic and advanced views, or being able to open up and see something in detail. Some of that is so that the first adopters of this, who might be more technical, have an easy way to get at that data, hopefully just quickly on that view also. But there's probably plenty of data that doesn't need to get shown to everybody.
So I've been kind of thinking about this as having at least two distinct different types of users. So if we think of DLCs as being an ecosystem, and so some of the people in this ecosystem are going to essentially be placing bets. So that could be somebody betting on, a sports game with their friends, very low key kind of individual, use of a DLC. Or somebody could, build some kind of complicated multi-party financial contract. Okay, so we arrange, but those are essentially people constructing contracts or constructing bets, right? And so I see that class of user as using the wallet software that you'll be releasing later. Today, what I'm seeing as the focus is another type of user, which is the user who runs an oracle. And it seems to me like if you want this like robust DLC ecosystem, that depends on having lots of quality oracles. So my question is I'm just trying to get into the mindset of the oracle maintainer as a user. What is the oracle maintainer's incentives? Like what motivates them to publish this data and attest to it?
That's a great question. Right now, there really is no incentive besides just building up reputation in the community. Just like with various communities, I guess like you end up getting to be important. I guess if you're somebody that people can trust. In the future, even for our own line of business, it's we've thought about monetizing things that are hard to attest to. So maybe not things that are like data on the internet that you can just go to a web browser and Google search the answer, but something where you actually got to be on the ground, like there, watching whatever thing it is. I can't think of a good example, I guess, off the top of my head now. But there are events that people are a small community of people are interested in at a very high level. But it's just not this wide thing that everybody can observe. So I think there is possibly an opportunity for monetization in that aspect as well. But it still really is yet to be determined. That the protocol's new and the market's new as a byproduct of that.
Gotcha. Thanks.
One other question. If once you, how much does it cost to announce and then close, or what it's called, attest to an announcement? Like, what's the cost involved? Because I assume that also kind of defines who's going to use this.
There is no cost right now. You can publish and attest freely, and there's no fee that goes to the Oracle or to us for that.
Okay, so it's not anchored in any transactions or anything else like that?
So specifically from the Oracle side, no. So the nice thing about oracles in the discrete log contract protocol is they are network agnostic. And what I mean by that is the same Oracle can be used on, so like, what the example of AJ Towns I posted earlier in this call. That Oracle could be used on Bitcoin, Litecoin, Zcash, pick your blockchain that you like today. This announcement will more than likely work on that. When you get to the wallet side of things, that's when Bitcoin specific information starts coming into play here, where you need UTXOs on the Bitcoin network, public keys on the Bitcoin network, and so forth. And we've tried to be very conscious about designing the protocol so that hopefully the Oracle part can be like an industry standard. Maybe that's a little bit too optimistic at this point, but it would be nice that we could have these oracles work across all these different chains, and then we can just quibble about wallet specific software on the various chains.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have some specific things I can discuss that I can show off in Figma that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to see if anybody else had any questions before I show off some of that, because it could take a little bit.
Doesn't sound like it. Fire away.
Cool. Let me I'll copy a link to this board, but I'll share my screen as well. Let's see. And then, yeah, so I set this up on my Umbrel, and then I just kind of took screenshots as I was kind of onboarding myself to this. Can everybody see my screen okay?
I can see it.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so this is the opening screen. Overall, I was able to basically set up Kyrstal Bull in a single morning and start, attesting and broadcasting to things. So I think the setup, the onboard process was, actually fairly simple. Nice little screen in the App Store here. I think the first kind of thing that struck me, this is just like a nitpicky design thing, but I think it would be better to have just on this like main screen when like we don't have any announcements yet, just making this table look a little nicer. Like looks a little broken when like the footer text gets kind of squished up here. So yeah, I just say something like if the table could be like clearly an empty table with some message that's like, hey, you don't have any announcements yet, or something to that effect. That could just look aesthetically nicer. I was a little confused by this button too. I think this is like a bug. I guess I thought this was like a bug report button, and I thought it was a. I wasn't sure if that was a 1, like if I was supposed to say like you have 1 notification. So I tapped that, and then it came up with this list announcements button, which I couldn't get to work. So overall, nothing. I mean, I'm not saying there was anything necessarily broken. I was just confused what that was. But in terms of actually, getting into it, I realized very quickly I need to create an announcement. So I went and I started creating an announcement. I was a little confused by this terminology, enum and numeric. Again, I got numeric. I didn't quite understand what enum meant, but I was kind of able to figure it out by toggling back and forth between the two. So a little bit jargony, but I did figure it out. So I don't know if there's maybe just a different, more human-friendly way of saying that. I was going through maturation time. I kind of, just because I've heard people talk about DLCs, I was like trying to guess what maturation time was, and I was thinking, well, this probably means that I don't know, that the announcement is only valid if it's signed by this specific time. That was my assumption, but I wasn't sure. And I just thought it might be better just for a first-time user, at least, if there was like a little info bubble by maturation time that could help explain the importance of what it is. But also, I was kind of curious, like when I noticed when I was digging into maturation time that it was kind of like it was a day and there was no time listed, so I wasn't sure if that was like midnight UTC or what. Either way, it might be good just to make it so that that's clearer. So yeah, I created an enum announcement as well as a numeric announcement. I think all of that went pretty smooth. I wasn't sure what the precision thing was, and I clicked on this bubble to try and figure out what precision was, and this description just kind of broke my brain. I usually am decent with mathematical descriptions, but I wasn't sure. So again, if your user base is going to be very technical, maybe that description's okay. But I guess what I was really looking for as a user is I was kind of wondering, like, what's a good default value? Like if I don't know what this field
That's
is.
very valid.
Yeah, can I just put it? So I put in 1. Just I was like, well, YOLO. But I put it in just to see, but I wasn't sure. And then created my announcements. Announcement created, and then I see that we have this, like, I guess we can kind of announce it or broadcast it to your Oracle Explorer by tapping that. So I was able to do all of that. One interesting thing, I was trying my best to break it. I have a black cat announcement, which is a true or false outcome. And I tried typing in test into this field here and signing it just to see what would happen. And I got this error message back, request failed, no event outcome. So because I was purposefully trying to break it, I kind of interpreted this message to mean like, hey, we can't do that because that's not a valid outcome. Like that's not defined in the announcement. But I could easily see, like, what if it was like, I thought I was typing in a valid outcome, but I made a typo. So just as a user, I think the user would benefit more if there was like a helpful error message, like explaining what this is, like, hey, sorry, we couldn't send the announcement. Maybe you should check, if you put in, typed your outcome correctly, or just give them some guidance on like, what do I do now that I've gotten this error message? Another thing I think would be really cool is if this outcome box here, because I noticed it has the text in there like grayed out, like what the possible values are you could type. So that'd be kind of cool if there was like some kind of input validation so that like you're not able to click this button until you type a valid outcome. Like just if the front end already knows what the valid values are, just prevent the user from entering in anything wrong to begin with, and then they'll never even see this error message to begin with. So I thought that was just an idea I had in terms of streamlining that. And
can I ask a quick question here? Sorry. Should you be able to sign your own announcement?
As an Oracle, I believe that's the point.
Yeah.
You're the authority.
Okay.
The concept here is there's an event. I am an authority on this event, and this is my interface to be that authority so that you can build contracts on top of it.
Okay, I just thought it would be different where I put something out there and somebody else, and like I bet on it or other people bet on it, and then some other party actually attests to it. So I cannot manipulate it, or, you know, like all the people creating and participating in it are separate from the signing of the outcome. Okay.
I think the way that I heard Ben Carmen talk about this, I think it was Ben, yeah, at PlebFi talking about this, saying that like essentially the benefit of the Oracle is that like they can announce and sign, but the people, like the Oracle has no idea if people are using their announcements and contracts.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
and they have no idea if they're announcing them or what the stakes are, because it's all, I guess, you know, like script hash stuff. So the idea being that I guess you trust the Oracle to be the authority on this source, and then they have no financial stake in the validity of the data. Like they're going to be honest either way because they don't know how anybody's bets are going to turn out, is I guess how I understood it.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
I think I'm pretty much at the end. I really just, you know, I think you kind of brought it up, Chris, a little bit, just this idea that like, you don't have, like you don't have to broadcast your announcements after you sign them. You could share it with your friend or your business partners privately. So I found that when I was using it for the first time, I thought it was a little weird. I was like, well, it makes a big deal out of when it says outcome signed, it gives me a big green thing. And then when I click broadcast outcome, it's just kind of like, this announcement is broadcast. It's like a very kind of,
Okay.
They make a big deal out of it here, but not there. But I don't know if that's a problem or not. I thought it was just interesting that like the action of signing seems to be like more visually more important than the act of broadcasting.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like, you know, do we start tying in like our, you know, kind of proprietary software strongly into like this existing open source software? Like probably should just do it. But, you know, we're trying to at least keep some sort of division there, but maybe it's too early to care.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I see where you're coming from there. You don't want to be like, people are like, oh, well, like you're locked into using, you know, my Oracle Explorer.
Yeah, and just real quick, it's like, you know, I think of an Oracle Explorer like I do block explorers. Like, you know, how many block explorers are out there in the world? Like, you know, you could probably name 10 of them at least. Like, I'd like to get to the point someday where that's also the case with the Oracle Explorers, but, you know, that doesn't exist today.
One kind of thing I was curious, I'm just like spitballing ideas here because I think it's cool. Like this, obviously, like some of these, like I attested that we had, you know, 9 people at 12:05. But like, what if I had forgotten to make that attestation? Would it be a useful feature for like the software to remind you that you need to sign your announcement? Like, oh, you know, that it's like, that's what I'm trying to figure out is like, does this user need to be reminded that their announcements need to be attested to and signed and broadcast? Or is it just kind of like no big deal if these things expire?
It's very important, actually, and that's a very good point. You know, as you were talking about earlier, discrete log or oracles for discrete log contracts are really private, which means that you have no idea who's like betting what amount on, you know, this stuff. Like, so with your design call announcement, for instance, likely there was 0 people betting on it, but you don't know that. It could have been, you know, someone that had like a 10 Bitcoin bet running on this thing. And if you aren't attesting to things after the fact, that person that has that bet will never be able to settle the bet and get the money that's rightfully owed to them. So that's such a great point.
My kind of just overarching, you know, thing I would say is just thinking about like a first-time Oracle, and like if currently, like right now, this is kind of like for fun. I could be like an Oracle for fun, but you know, it seems to me like you want to build this ecosystem where there's a lot of Oracles signing up to data, you know, or like signing off on data all the time. And so like, you know, there needs to be a way to like onboard Oracles to this quickly, I feel like, and, you know, show them what's important. And so, I mean, I was able to figure out, I'd say props to you for, you know, you and your team for coming up with something that was, you know, I thought fairly simple to figure out, but just again, I'm trying to hedge that with the fact that I knew a little bit about DLCs, you know, or read a little bit about DLCs going into this, and I think that for a first-time user, they could use some hand-holding at certain points, just kind of like, you know, you get to the screen like, you know, hey, you need to make an Oracle name or something like that. Maybe just like something to draw their eye to Oracle name, and then it's like, okay, now create your first announcement. And you know, there's no money at stake, so maybe educating the user during this process of like, okay, there's, you know, you're going to create your first announcement. There's no Bitcoin involved in this. You're just, you know, your first announcement can say whatever you want, just so you learn how to use it, like a hello world announcement kind of thing, and just, you know, constantly just like walk them through and show them what they're doing. It's like, okay, I created an announcement now, you know, and then it's like, okay, you've created it. Now, do you want to broadcast it? You know, and then again, like I was saying, just like when there's having a reminder go off, like, hey, you know, your announcement's about to expire in an hour. Are you sure you don't want to sign off on it? So yeah, that would be my just kind of overarching suggestion. Just, you know, kind of build in some handrails there for the user on their first, you know, construction of an announcement and all of that kind of stuff. But I'd say overall, I had a pretty intuitive. I found it intuitive when I was using it.
A question about the attestation and broadcasting it. It's only one central person who is making the attestation of the results, or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So then the composability of oracles would allow for like multiple people to make those attestations, just to kind of like distribute that trust a bit, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I see. So then that could also allow for something where, like, let's say in the in the Slack we have like 1,998 members, I think there. If all of their names are kind of like options, right? Or like some ID, all of them are options, then we could kind of like, I'm trying to figure out like a way to like make attestations of like who was, like, people could kind of like opt in to say like I was at this call, and then everyone else could like verify their attestations to that. And then we can kind of like have some mechanism to like I don't know, pay out something if you were like attended the event or something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think something like that would be possible. You need the, you know, total list of people up front, and then you'd have to have, you know, the set of people that are going to sign the things. But if they are fundamentally the same event, that's when the multi-oracle stuff does come into play. Like, you know, a more simple example is, you know, the election or football game ones. But yeah, the same concept applies.
I was trying to think of it like outside of the context of like betting on these like binary things and stuff. Yeah. Super interesting.
We have about 10 minutes to go. Just wanted to say that real quick. So whatever we want to cover, follow-up steps, what you would like help with, or anything else. Just wanted to point that out. Continue, Johns. Please go ahead.
No. That was just a personal curiosity.
Connor, how are we looking with the program?
In terms of just a call? I was gonna jump in, but you jumped in before me to say this 10 minutes ago. Obviously, we can continue conversations after the call, but we try and keep them to an hour, and then if people want to chat after, then more than happy to. Yeah, Chris, is there any other things you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, I really appreciate your guys' feedback on this. And like I said at the beginning of the call, you'll likely see me back, you know, in a month or so with same questions about the full-fledged wallet, which is going to be much more complex and need a lot more help from you guys on, frankly, to, you know, make sure that what we're doing is sane and understandable to end users. So I just, you know, I think that's pretty much what I have to say. And again, thank you guys so much.
Is the wallet going to be? Thanks for sharing the video as well. Is the wallet going to be like an app in Umbrel, or is it like a mobile app that interfaces with your Umbrel node, or?
So right now it's just a boring old desktop application, like no mobile support, no Umbrel support. It's like, you download it like it's 2005. So where we want to go though, and what we just did with Kyrstal Bull, is port that desktop application to have a web front end, and then use that web front end to deploy to things like Umbrel. So that's what we're targeting next for the wallet, is get that deployed on Umbrel. It'll likely take us a month or so of time to get that done, but that's the direction we're heading towards.
And is it like the Oracle Explorer and like database and stuff that's going to be on Umbrel, or is it just like a connection to, like, actually another question, like, where's the data stored? Is it stored in like a MySQL or something, or?
So there's kind of it depends on what you're asking. So like, think of the Oracle Explorer like a block explorer. It is this thing that everybody has access to and anybody can visit. However, your local Oracle is like your Bitcoin wallet. It has like your private keys in it. It has sensitive information that only you should know. So that's what Kyrstal Bull is, that we just went through today. And the wallet will be the exact same thing, except it'll have functionality to build the Bitcoin transactions in it as well. So it'll have your money, it'll have your private keys, it'll track your open DLCs, and that's that purpose. And we want to get that to Umbrel, but it's not there yet.
Okay, so is Kyrstal Bull like on like a ShortBits database somewhere? Like is it connect? Because like in the case of Explorer, like Blockstream info or something, it's connecting to like the Blockstream nodes, right? Or if I launch like the Elements block Explorer, whatever, then I could choose like, or connect to my Bitcoin Core RPC, or connect to this like other source or whatever. So like, yeah, like what's the actual data source? I get the Explorer part and the wallet part, but what's the data source?
Well, you're the one that's creating these oracles for Kyrstal Bull, right? So like in the examples we did today, I created one about AJ Towns. Steven created one about, the number of participants here in this design call. That information is all stored locally. You have the option to announce that information to the wider world, which is like what that little link button was, if you remember that. But you also have the option to totally keep that locally and not share it with anybody else except your buddies, or on the Bitcoin Design Slack or something like that. So
it's architected like PGP key servers then.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
One more question, kind of, what's your ideal scenario? Find a designer to work with directly in your team, or just get some feedback? Are you with the current product that you have in Umbrel right now? Are you looking to very quickly iterate based on user feedback, or what are you trying to get done next in terms of design and user experience?
First off, for us is just distribution, right? Like, we need to get it on platforms that people can use, which is why we're targeting Umbrel so much. Part two to distribution is like getting something that's usable by the people. So, we got to get it in their hands. Second off, we got to listen to their feedback on like what the heck is this thing? Like, what is enum versus numeric? And that was extremely valuable feedback today. And then the third thing is like, we need to build a market. Like, you need to go find people to bet against or speculate against as well. And that's a much bigger engineering and research question, I'd say, that there's no quick and easy answers to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. I was just curious, the main question is like, you work on a product, like there's this one thing, like if you wake up and you see this happening, you're super pumped because you just nailed it, because people are doing exactly what you wanted them to do. Like what would that be? Is it just seeing tons of announcements being made, or is it like people sending each other announcements in a Telegram and like talking about the bets that they have going on? Like, what would be the thing that gets you excited because you nailed it?
This is something that Ivan's brought up before, but I think when we can start settling Twitter bets or like start doing Twitter bets, people talking shit to each other on Twitter, and they got to put their money where their mouth is because, you know, somebody wants to actually enter into a DLC with them, I'd consider that a success. You know, we're a ways off from that, but like, as I even put it that way, and I thought, yeah, that is like, we've got some traction, and we can also hopefully shut some people up on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, then you're very much talking about a kind of a consumer product, right? Something playful that people have fun with, and that kind of conversations happen around.
Yeah, I think we could also take some hints from you know, like being deployed on Umbrel, right? So there was talk about like the hash and the JSON thing being shown there, and you know, like people who use Umbrel fitted like a specific type of specific archetype, and you know, like from what we have currently on the Kyrstal Bull, it doesn't. I don't think it fits that archetype quite yet. You know, seeing a whole bunch of hash strings and numerical, and what was the thing about instead of like end date, it was maturation. You know, like stuff like that. It's like Umbrel users, like they go there because they want that simplicity. So it seems like you're already kind of like angling for that certain kind of market, so it should be kept in focus for the UI as well.
Dope. And on that note, we're on the hour mark, so we'll end it there. But thanks for sharing that with us, Krys. I think it's the first kind of conversations we've had around DLC stuff actually, so super interesting. And yeah, look forward to a couple of weeks time on the wallet stuff. That should be super interesting as well. So thanks again.
Yeah, and thank you guys for your time too.
Thanks for all the feedback.
Cool.